Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes and today we are going to be talking about Tarzan and minorities. So if you read the title of the video and sort of looked at the thumbnail, you might be panicking and go, okay, did Malika go woke? What happened? That's not the case. I just think that it's important to address this and to sort of talk about this because I'm going to be doing another video on Tarzan, but I think this video is good to come first because it will explain some of the decisions that I'm making with the second video. So a while ago, one of my subscribers asked me to do a video on Tarzan to sort of talk about the archetypes and things like that. I've done something similar for Disney's Belle or Beauty and the Beast. So I was going to, hold up to that promise that I made a while ago and actually do Tarzan because Tarzan was a story that I grew up with. The Disney film was the one I grew up with, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites. It was Tarzan, Hercules, Spirit, Anastasia, Lilo and Stitch, Mulan, and Pocahontas. Those were kind of the movies that I loved as a child. So I was very excited to read the books because I felt that they were going to be even better. Usually, the rule is that the books are better than any adaptation, and unfortunately, that was not the case for this. I've only ever come across one example of that, and that was The Godfather, where the writer was one of the directors, so he was able to sort of correct things that he himself felt were not quite right with the books. So, looking at the adaptation of Tarzan, it's it's really well done. We have this fictional character who was raised by apes, and so he doesn't really have any comprehension of life outside of the jungle. He hasn't really come across any people within the jungle either. So he's very isolated. His reality is formed by the ape community that he is a part of. And it makes sense that the human world is shocking to him when he comes across humans for the first time in the form of Jane and her father and this huntsman. So his interaction with humans, it's really amusing to watch. As a child, it was brilliant to watch. Even as an adult now, it was something that was very endearing because I had to watch it again recently in order to do the video that I was planning to do. And to do my due diligence, I went ahead and read the books. And I have to say I was disappointed. I really, it was a sort of disappointment that can only come from reading something that you had such high expectations of, something that you loved as a child, and then you read the original source material and it's sort of a heart-wrenching disappointment. And this is the reason why. There is a way to write. Being a vivid writer, because Edgar Rice Burroughs, who is the writer of Tarzan, he is a very vivid writer, but it takes a lot more than vividly describing scenery and events to be a good writer. That's just kind of the baseline. Being able to describe things is primary level when it comes to writing. There needs to be a lot more than that. In order for readers to suspend disbelief, you have to be good at world building. And Burroughs wasn't good at world building. So you constantly had to suspend disbelief and be conscious of it, which is not what you want as a writer. You don't want your readers being taken out of the action or being aware that they're sold a lie. So this is something that was the first issue I had with the books. The second issue I had with the books is the way that they portray minorities. Everything written before 1980, I give a very long branch. Because I understand the context that they were written in, and I don't expect them to have the sensibilities of today. I think it's foolish to expect that. However, there's a difference between it being well written and it just being distasteful. I found the representation of minorities in Tarzan distasteful. They were not written well at all. And this is not to say that you can never have minorities written in a way that is slightly uncomfortable for some people to read. For example, Tolkien wrote about people who we could see the sort of Arab influence in, and that was the Haradrim and the Easterlings. So, and for some people that might be uncomfortable, but it never gets past uncomfortable if you're sensitive, because the way it was written, they are not the enemy. They are not the enemy. They're not treated as inferior. They're treated as every other character, and they're written well. We don't get much of them, but what we do get of them is well written. There's no blatant disrespect there. So it's not like that, unfortunately, in Tarzan's original source material. It's just blatant disrespect. In fact, at one point we have Tarzan say, as he introduces himself to Jane, "I am the killer of wild beasts and black men." And I can kind of understand why he would say that, because he quite literally kills black men, and his favorite method of doing that is hanging them. So it passes the point of uncomfortable. It's now just, whoa, you didn't pull your punches with that one, did you? So, and I think that's something that is very important to talk about, because there is a way to write about places that you are unfamiliar with. There is a way to write about people that you are unfamiliar with. But Tarzan's original source material doesn't do a good job of that. And that's why I wanted to sort of bring it to your attention, because in the next video I will not be using the source material to talk about Tarzan's archetypes and things like that, because I don't even think it does a good job of that, which brings me to the third point about why I will not be using the original source material. It doesn't do a good job of actually portraying the male archetype in a way that is believable. So what could be seen as an extreme of masculinity is Conan the Barbarian or a Solomon Kane character. But Tarzan doesn't even manage to do that. It sort of just misses the mark on that even. Because everything that goes wrong for Tarzan is always as a result of someone else. He never makes mistakes, because apparently being raised by apes gives you a super kind of intelligence that humans who are raised in a functioning human society cannot achieve. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, instincts will get you far, but there is a limit to instincts, which is why we can best animals. It's, just putting a human being in an animalistic environment, they don't come out on top. And that's one of the things that I didn't like about Tarzan. There's no real struggle. And that is what builds a character. We need to see characters go through something in order for them to have a specific sort of outcome. That never happens in Tarzan. It happens in the Disney adaptation. We see Tarzan struggle with what he is unfamiliar with. We see him struggle with things that he is even familiar with. He has to earn his place. He still has to fight his father figure. There are a lot of lessons to be learned in the Disney version. In the original story, it's very much the kind of, how I would describe it is a crude version of the Jungle Book. And the Jungle Book is a lot better. The Jungle Book is written so much better. In fact, the Jungle Book is so well written that even critics who accuse Kipling of racism, imperialism, colonialism, and all the other isms you can think of, they still comment on how brilliant and powerful his storytelling is. So it's not about being criticized or having themes that are unsavory for some. It's about how well you do that. It's the same thing, I believe, with comedy. Some jokes, some people think are off limits. But if you can do it in a funny way, the majority are willing to accept that. And I'm practically the same way with writing. If you do something that people are uncomfortable with, it's fine, so long as it's well done. For example, take The Heart of Darkness. That book, a lot of people have criticized as racist. I personally do not believe it is. However, it doesn't exactly paint Native Africans as the most intelligent of people, so I can see how people think it's racist. But because the writing is so well done, because Joseph Conrad knew how to write and what he was doing, it was a good read. It was something that could be enjoyed. There are lessons there to be learned from all angles. You could come at it at the literary angle, and it's still a good book. You could come at it from the themes angle, and it's still a good book. It doesn't matter what angle you come at it, it's still a read that deserves its place on the Western canon list. So those are the 4 reasons I'm going to be diverting from the original source material and focusing on the Disney adaptation of Tarzan. I just feel that it has a lot more to talk about. It has a lot more to teach in terms of archetypal storytelling. It's better told, and I think that it has more realistic characters. In the original source material, unfortunately, the characters were a bit two-dimensional for me. So that's the reason why I'm going to be using the Disney adaptation of Tarzan to talk about just sort of the male journey and different archetypes that feature there. I also think it has a better ending. The ending is a lot more satisfying, a little bit gruesome for especially for a Disney movie, but I think it's fitting. So I'm going to end this video here. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I look forward to the conversation in the comment section because I know some people are going to have a lot to say about this video, but I'm looking forward to hearing your debates, and I hope you have a lovely day. This has been the Malika Writes channel.